Hello and welcome to episode 295 of the Board Game BBQ Podcast, proudly brought to you by Adrian Games and our Patreons. My name's Dan, I'm your host for tonight, but they wouldn't leave me alone in the hosting chair, so I've got two carers looking after me tonight, and it's 2/3 of the Queensland team. We've got Adrian. How you doing, Adi?
I'm good, mate. I'm good.
And Dana. I went in alphabetical order. So, Dana, how are you?
Yeah. I'm much better than I was 2 weeks ago.
I was going to say you've tuned in tonight to hear the bad back squad, because
right.
all three of us before the show were lamenting at our bad backs.
Yes, I have been pretty bad, actually. I haven't been able to sit properly, not without some sort of medication or something like that. So it's been very bad for board gaming for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually, it was good for me because I found the chairs in the kitchen at the kitchen table were the best chairs in the house for me with my back. I've had a heat pack behind me, and I've been on a couple of Nurofen, a bit of Voltaren mixed in there as well. It's been great.
There's been a couple of drives I've done actually where I haven't had anything to sort of push my back out. So I've just grabbed a 500ml bottle of water and shoved it behind my back to push it forward, and it worked. It felt great. It was like, it's so good. It's so much more comfortable.
It's also probably just a reminder of how bad our posture normally is when sitting, because I can see Adrian as well. We've both got gaming chairs, and they're probably not the best things to sit in. And this is the chair that I sit in when I work from home as well. So anyway, you didn't tune in tonight to hear about all of our bloody problems. So let's get on to some games, and we're going to throw over to you, Dana. Despite your ailments, what's been hitting the table lately?
Well, I have actually. Well, I've got to be honest with you. I haven't basically played anything in 2 weeks, so I'm talking about games that I have played prior to that. Mm-hmm. I have been mucking around with the Unmatched. It's called Unmatched Adventures: Tales to Amaze. I actually have almost the whole collection of Unmatched, which probably surprises you because I don't particularly like confrontation in games. But I did have a close friend in board gaming. He's passed away now. And that was our thing. We would play this game and there would be a lot of banter and we would just sort of play it repeatedly. And since then, though, I haven't been playing it a lot, but I was really glad to get this version to the table because it's a cooperative version. So you've got,
really?
Yeah. So you've got 4 heroes and 2 villains and a bunch of little minions as well that you're trying to beat cooperatively. You can play actually competitively as well if you like, but I prefer to play cooperatively. And you can also, I really like it as well, that you can actually bring in your other characters from the other games and play this as well. So it's been great so far. I've actually only been playing or versing one of the villains so far. So, but I can tell you, I think that I will probably sizzle this game. I probably won't talk about it much more, but I think this would be a sizzle.
Have you seen the extensive collection of print and play heroes that are available online?
No, I haven't. I don't look much at print and play games.
I don't either, but there's a massive, I would call it cult or following of people creating amazing characters. I mean, you've got like Goofy, Neo from the Matrix, there's Willy Wonka.
That sounds awesome.
Thousands. There would be thousands. And there's all different types of characters from different genres. Edward Scissorhands is on there. There's heaps. And you can
I would love that.
It's so simple. And you know what? They actually have an app. The company that makes Unmatched has an app that you can use to make your own cards. And it's so simple. You can just make a deck yourself and just play it for fun and add any characters that you've ever liked. You could add Kath and Kim. Do you know what I mean?
Oh my God, that would be so good.
Have a card that says "Look at me."
Look at me.
Look at me.
Have a glass of Chardonnay.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, there's so many characters already on there that you can play around with. So I definitely suggest anyone that hasn't looked at them, even if you're not going to print them, just go and have a look because they're really fun and they're really interesting and some of them have got a real tongue in cheek to some of the cards and some of the abilities. So yeah, it's worth checking out. If you like Unmatched, it's definitely, we've talked about it before many, many moons ago, but it's definitely worth having a look at. So
what are your favorite matchups, Dana, from the ones that you've got?
We used to. I remember we used to play it's Cobble and Fog. I think it's Unmatched Cobble and Fog, which was pretty good. I like to play. What's it, Bruce Lee?
Yes,
but I'm really crap at it. I'm actually crap at the whole game, which is probably why I like it cooperatively. I'm really rubbish at it, but I just love it. I just love it. It's got lots of fun memories for me.
The only time I've ever played it, I played Robin Hood versus Bruce Lee, and it was great because Robin Hood's got a couple of other merry men or people from Sherwood Forest with him, and it's all long range stuff. But as soon as you get too close to Bruce Lee, he does the 1-inch punch, and all of his moves are real close quarter combat, and he's super powerful. So it was a really interesting matchup.
Yeah.
Can I read you out an interesting stat from that Welcome to the Unmatched Maker website? So there's 12,478 published fan decks, including the 49 official decks. That makes 78,456,601 possible 1v1 matchups.
That's insane.
That's crazy.
And then the 2v2 matchups, I can't read that number. There's at least 12 zeros or 12 decimal places. It's massive. It's in the trillions.
Do you think people have created, like, people they know?
Maybe.
Do you think so?
Bill.
I don't know.
Bill the gardener.
Can there be that many people? That's like the whole of China.
We could do that.
Everybody's got a deck.
Combinations, but
that's the combinations.
That's the combinations. But we could do a Board Game BBQ crew. You could do Connor versus Jules, like the Sasquatch versus the Tactician.
Oh God, that would be so funny.
With all the subsequent games that come out, are the boards the same?
No, they have different boards, but everything's interchangeable.
Yeah, right.
So
you could potentially buy not that I want to sort of do in their profits, but you could potentially buy one game, then you've got the board, and then you can just go to BGG and play your life away.
Yes, that's true.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's great.
Well, speaking of competitive / cooperative games, this weekend my boys, they still get a lot of the old games that we've been playing for years, and they get out and just play in the playroom every now and then. And they got out Zombie Teens Evolution, and they were getting it out and they were setting it all up because we finished it quite some time ago. And I happened to water pass. Go, what are you doing? And he goes, "Oh, Jack, I'm just trying to read the rules for the verses." I said, "What do you mean the verses?" And I'd forgotten that. And this might be a bit of a spoiler because Zombie Teens Evolution is somewhat a legacy game, but it's cooperative. And when you get to the end, one of the final envelopes you open and some new stickers to put in the rulebook is actually how to play the game competitively, where one person can control the zombies and the other people can actually control the teens, and you play versus essentially instead of cooperatively. So I said, come on, let's put it on the kitchen table and we'll all play. So I was playing the zombies, and the two of them were working together to play against me. They were playing you still play for all 4 kids, but it was really funny because we don't play that many games where it's competitive. And so when it was their turn, they were whispering their tactics to each other so that I couldn't hear, and it was really, really cute. It's weighted pretty well. The zombies won every time, but when I won, I only won by just a single turn because they had 3 of the 4 crates that they'd returned from the various shops back to the school. But I was really surprised at how clever and Scorpion Mars, so I probably shouldn't be that surprised because they're one of my favorite publishers, but surprised how tight it is for a little sort of 1v1 or 1v many, which has spun out of what was essentially a campaign game, just to give the game a bit more life. So it's not a one and done campaign. I was super impressed. Now I know, Adrian, you've played both Zombie Kids and Zombie Teens. Have you revisited it with the versus mode?
We've never played the versus mode, actually. We kind of, it's probably like similar to you. You played it to the end, and then you'd had enough of it at that point in time. So therefore, revisiting it now, it seems fresh and exciting. Do you know what I mean? So at the time, you probably played 4 games in a row to get it completed.
Well, yeah, we were playing back to back because that's it's the carrot on the stick thing. You get the stickers 100%. And you open up a new envelope, and it's like, oh, look at this character, look at this toxic zombie, and it's like, oh, now we've got to keep playing kind of thing. And also I noticed, and which is something that I'd forgotten about, but you can go to the website, and the website, Scorpion Mark website, explains how you can combine Zombie Kids and Zombie Teens together into a game as well. So
that's an oath.
Yeah.
That's a no for someone.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. And something else that I really liked about Scorpion Mask at that time, and it was mainly during COVID, and I don't know if it still exists or is still happening, but I really love how they introduced monthly missions for those games.
Yes, that's
online
right.
on their Twitter page and on other websites and other content spaces. And you were able to be like, oh, okay, we've got to try and kill 4 zombies or 12 zombies in the game. So you're kind of coaching them out and letting them come out more and slowing the game down so that you could take these zombies out to get these achievements done. Because if you got these achievements done, you know, you could tweet about it and stuff. But yeah, it was very clever. It gave you something interesting to do after you potentially completed the game, or if you're just looking for different objectives. And that book is already littered with objectives, which we had done many of. Not all of them, but they were always fun and interesting. Either. But yeah, it was great. It's a great game.
And the other thing, of course, as well, and you've just reminded me, because I think it was Finn who pointed it out to you, and you told me, and I told the boys. But they've got the Zombie Kids universe, the ZKU, where there's kids in the background of zombie teens from Zombie Kids Evolution, but also there's Mia London, there's the Flashpoint games, where some of the games from the Zombie Kids, Zombie Teen games are in those games as well. So it's really, really clever.
Very clever.
Anyway, that just popped into my head when Dana was saying that she was playing a cooperative game competitively. What's been hitting the table at your place, Adrian?
Well, at my place, I was lucky enough to play a bunch of Bardwood Grove. I've now played that game like 5 times, unlocked a lot of the content, almost all of it, and been really enjoying it. And you can go back and listen to Mitch's sizzle of it a couple of episodes ago. There'll be a link in the show notes. But it's so smooth, man. That is such a smooth game. To play it, when you start playing it, everything just makes sense, and it's very smooth to play. It's an absolute joy to play. And it gets quite crunchy towards the midpoint of the game, because at the start it's quite small. Like any deck building, you have very limited things that you can do, but once you start to build up your songs, you can really min-max exactly what you're going to do. And for me, to beat Haig in a game by 1 point is just, it's the chef's kiss to that game, honestly. And all of our scores were incredibly tight in that game. It was 30, 31, and 32. And it was great. Great fun. Really great theme. You feel the theme in the game. The componentry is phenomenal. And Mitch has spoken about it already and goes into a bit more detail of how the mechanics and stuff work. But yeah, absolutely great game. And I've already been showing Finn how to play it. And just like I've done with a lot of games, just a condensed down version, removing elements of the game that are a little bit too complex for someone to take on at the start. But eventually, if we've played 3 or 4 games, we can go, oh, well, we're going to add this part in now. And that game actually does that already. But I would even cull it back a little bit more. And there's some easy bits in it. I know that Mitch spoke about it before, but the victory point system is these kind of gems that essentially are a finite resource. So you have this finite collection of gems that you get through for your victory points. Whereas in the game, rather than giving it 4 or 5 per player, we just do 3 per player, just to shorten the game right down and make it very quick and very, very fast. Because it's the main thing with kids. It's not that they're not interested. They love it and they're very interested. It's just the time. Like once it hits past that sort of 45, 50 minutes, it can be hard for kids to want to engage still.
Yep.
But yeah. And it's mainly, I find that it's them taking on all of these mechanics and all of this knowledge is overwhelming. So, to have it shortened and a few mechanics missing is a really nice way to keep Finn involved. And he's going through that period at the moment where he'll sit down and watch the last 2 rounds of Barrage game and think that he knows everything because he wants to be involved. He wants to be at the big boys table and play these games. But, and he loves it and he loves just hanging out at the table. But Bardwood Grove is a great game for him. Like he enjoyed the theme and he enjoyed going around and doing the different actions and gaining cards and singing songs. So
are you like, I can imagine these big burly men sitting around the game table. Are you singing songs?
Well,
like, are you actually singing like little tunes?
There's a digital soundtrack and we listened to that while we were playing on my Alexa, and that was great. It was really nice. I thought it was quite soothing at points, actually, very chilled. But I haven't sung, but I have laughed and been chuckling at all of the different cards. And obviously there's some cards that are called shred. So whenever we pull that card out, someone, air guitars, some shredding. Yeah, that goes in. It has to be done. And yeah, it's great. It's been awesome. So yeah, I've loved it.
I'm yet to get it to the table.
I think you'll really like it. It's 100%.
All right, let's go around the grounds again. Dana, what else have you been playing?
Well, once again, a couple of weeks ago, I played a game called Far Away. I'm not sure if you've heard of this. It hasn't been released yet, but this we were able to get from Pandasaurus Games early, so very lucky to be able to play it. And it's a small box game. It's only the size of, I don't know, maybe a little bit bigger than a no thanks box. Mm-hmm. And it's basically a family strategy game where you're openly drafting cards and you're collecting sets of card types or resources or symbols, and then you're playing them down simultaneously in a row. And the idea is that when you play a card and you're only in the game, you're only going to be able to play 8 cards, and you're going to be playing them in a row from left to right. But the thing is that at the end, when you do your final scoring, you're going to be playing them, or you're going to be scoring them from right to left. So it's actually, it does your head in a little bit when you first play it, because you might have placed a card down as, let's say, 4th, but when you're activating your first card, you realise, oh, hang on, there's a prerequisite for the scoring for that card, and I'm not going to have that until the 3rd card that I played, and so I actually can't score anything. And it's really you need to play it a couple of times just to get into the rhythm of it, about how you're going to play your cards and how you score.
So what's the title of Far Away? Where does that come from? Or is it just because it's so confusing your brain goes far away?
That's it. There is a theme, but I don't really get the theme.
Oh, okay.
Look, to be honest, the theme didn't mean a great deal to me. The art is very cute, and that's all I needed. For me, it was more about the mechanics of the game. So I wish I could tell you more about the theme. But the other things in the game are, if you can play your cards, and the cards are numbered 1 to 68.
Oh, okay.
And if you can play a card in your row and you're increasing in value, you get a reward card, which can give you an extra resource or an extra bonus or some end of game scoring. But if the lower the card you play, you get first choice of the next card from the market. So there's a lot to think about. And this game only goes for, it says on BGG, 15 to 30 minutes. It really is about that. We played a 4-player game. It was about 30 minutes. It wouldn't be any much more than that. But to me, it's quite family friendly. The iconography is great, and the rule book is really short. It's basically a pamphlet, and I thought it was really good value for a very small box. And I'll just let you know that it's for pre-order, $38.95 from Advent Games. Just putting a plug in there.
Get your purchase pens out, everybody.
Get your purchase pen out. It was really, really good. I've really enjoyed it. And I'm
always looking for a little small box games, especially a family one as well. I'm really interested in that.
Yeah, no, it's great. Really, really good. I thoroughly enjoyed it. So highly recommend it.
I recently got a couple of shelves just into my Kallax, because I had all the small box games like Six Nimped and No Thanks and all those sorts of card games just stacked up in one of my Kallax cubes. And so I thought I'd invest in a couple of drawers for the Kallax from IKEA, and now that's where all all my card games go, and I reckon I could probably fit a copy of Far Away in there somewhere. So,
yes, I'm sure you could.
Very cool. Speaking of card games, I had something in the show notes last time I was on the show, and I didn't get a chance to talk about this, but I know there are some puzzle fiends out there that share my love of puzzles, and these are very, very cryptic puzzles in this game, which is a deck of cards called Lost in the Shuffle. Now, I first heard about this when the Melbourne Meeple podcast, they do, Chris and Jen, they do a monthly podcast, and they, at the end of last year, they talked about their favourite games of last year, and Chris mentioned this game from a designer called Spencer Beebe, or Spencer Beebe.
Beebe.
Yeah. And his website is spenserispunzling.com. That's where I actually purchased it from, because I wasn't able to get it from anywhere else. And he was out of stock, and then I got an email saying, hey, you asked to be notified when it's back in stock, and so I quickly ordered it. This is brilliant. This is 52 deck of 52 cards, and it's essentially 52 puzzles. And the way they work this, and I haven't, full disclosure, I haven't completed it yet, but you log on to the website, and then there's just a text box where you enter in these. Every puzzle is a word as you solve them, and some of the puzzles are on a single card. Some of the puzzles stretch across multiple cards. There's, without saying too much, there's some puzzles on the box as well to solve, but essentially, this is a deck of cards that has been so cleverly crafted where they work together, they intertwine. Sometimes there's more than one puzzle on the one card. It's an absolute trip. The guy's a genius to have created this, and it's so fun. I just get it every now and then, and I'll just flick through it. It's like, oh, I think I know that one, and then I'll type it in, and yep, that's another word. I've solved another puzzle, and then I'll get completely stuck, and I'll put it aside, and I'll get it out a few weeks later and just have a look and go, this one was staring right at me, and why didn't I see it last time? And it's just super, super clever. It's called Lost in the Shuffle.
Is it where you're actually having to discover the puzzles? Like, there's no guidance. You're just...
Yeah, you're completely left on your own. Some of them are quite easy to get. And then some of them, once you work out, there might be a code or a way of doing it, then that will actually help you with some of the other cards that are a little bit more complicated. I really don't want to spoil it by going into too much detail about how some of the puzzles are created, but suffice to say there are 52 puzzles in this deck of 52 cards, and they are literally a deck of cards that have got scribble all over them, or some things that are printed in the corners, or there's a half a letter here and then half a letter on another card somewhere else in the deck, and it's just super clever. It's so fun just to go through and just explore these things. And sometimes I'll be staring at it for a good 10, 15 minutes going, no, I got nothing, and I'll put it back. And other times I'll get it out and straight away I'll work out a puzzle that just was not obvious to me last time I got it. And I'm determined to try and finish it.
That was my question, actually. Is there an end?
Yeah, well, there is an end, because there's actually a 53rd puzzle, but you don't get it until you do the first 52.
Got to do all of that.
And I don't know. I can only assume that maybe some of the words go together to form the last puzzle, I guess. And there are forums out there as well that can give you a hint. And also on the website, after you get through, I think it's like 8 or every 10 puzzles, there's like a little bit of a video, which kind of clues you into some of the puzzles that you obviously are a bit more advanced and you may not have actually sort of jerried how they work yet. So he doesn't completely leave you in the dark. But this guy Spencer Beebe must be like next level genius, because some of these puzzles are super, super fun.
Is it like I'm just trying to think of it's not like mazes, is it? Like
some might be.
Oh, you're not telling me. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's some word puzzles. There's some cards that go together, some that don't go together, some that it's really, really, if you're into puzzles, if you're into cryptics and solving codes and things like that, we're not talking like, Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective. We're talking more of like The Initiative, if you've played that, which has like codexes and puzzles.
I love that.
Yeah, that's a brilliant game. And that's one of my all-time favorite gaming experiences, but this is climbing the charts too, because it sort of evokes that kind of, this card goes with that, and I've just cracked it. And then you type it into the website, and ding, 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 another one's, you've solved another one. It's like, yes, it's really, really satisfying. So yeah, Lost in the Shuffle. I highly recommend that one.
I can imagine that I would have that in my handbag, and I would just bring it out if I happen to be waiting somewhere or something like that. It really appeals to me. I like that kind of thing. I'm getting it. That's it. The purchase pen is out. I'm getting it.
So good. Aidy, back to you.
I've been playing heaps and heaps of games, but one that stood out to me recently was Beer and Bread. I don't know if you've both played this or any of you have played this.
I haven't played it, but I remember friends of the show, Monique and Naveen, I remember watching their playthrough of it.
Yeah, thoroughly enjoyed it. Harry taught it to me a long time ago, and I instantly bought it. And I don't often do that, even though whenever I talk about it on the show, I seem to be always doing that. I seem to always say, I played half a round and then I bought it before I finished. But that doesn't happen that often. And this is one of the games where it did. And I really like it. I love the 2-player head-to-head. It's very interesting because it is like an engine builder in a way kind of a thing. And you're kind of gathering these resources and building, baking bread and brewing beer. And it's just got some really interesting mechanics behind it. It's multi-purpose cards. All the cards, I think there's 60 cards, but every card has 3 different categories of actions that it can be done. Either gathering resources, upgrading your tableau to do different abilities, or essentially baking that piece of bread. But yeah, fantastic game, really interesting. I'll probably talk about it in a little bit more detail in the future, but if you're looking for like a 2-player game that's 30 to 40 minutes max and super thinky and super tight, like we're talking, I've played it 5 times and every game has been within 3 points. It's been like 19 and 22 or 18 and 19 and scores like this. It's incredibly, incredibly tight. But yeah, it's fantastic. Very, very clever. So I will talk about that more in the future for sure. But I have been playing it. So
I really enjoyed it, because you're drafting cards, and I love that push-pull of you're trying to decide what you've got to hand someone else.
Yes.
And I love that part of the game.
The hardest bit is remembering what cards you gave them, because just not to go into too much detail, each round is slightly different. You have a fruitful season and then a sort of drought season. And on the drought season, you don't pass the cards. So you get kind of comfortable with your hand and you're like, oh, it's great. And you plan all the cards and you get to use all the cards in that round. But in the next round, you have to swap each time you take a card. So you need to then start going, oh God, I need to remember what I'm giving you now. I haven't thought about it very much and it's too late. I've already passed you my cards. And yeah, it's very, very interesting. Very cool game.
Well, if you'll forgive me, I'd like to just bring up one more game before we get into our sizzles. And this is a game that we were lucky enough to get a copy of from our friends at VR. It's Star Wars Bounty Hunters, which I got a chance to play. It's been doing the rounds. If you're on the socials, you would have seen a lot of people playing it and talking about it and sharing photos. So we were lucky enough to play it as well. I played it with my boys, and it's really fun. It's really light. It's really easy to play, but it's super fun. I mean, who doesn't love the bounty hunters in Star Wars anyway? But it's kind of a combination of a few different kinds of games because it has a drafting mechanic similar to Sushi Go, which is another one that my boys love. We play a lot of Sushi Go Party, and there's a central board which is a neoprene mat thanks to VR that we got to use, and you're drafting initially from a marketplace of 4 different piles of cards. So you've got bounties and you've got bounty hunters because it's the first person to actually obtain 4 bounties triggers the end of the game and everyone gets one more turn. There's also some contracts which can force you to, like if you catch 2 Chewbacca's or 2 Han Solos, you'll get more points at the end, or you'll get a point for every Han Solo that you get, or for every Grogu that you capture. And then there's the Jawa marketplace as well, where you can hire droids to help you catch the bounties, because if you're using bounty hunters to do it, there's actually that incur a negative score at the end. So you can, if you, let's say you want to catch Chewbacca, there's 3 different rows. There's the red, the green, the blue, and you need a value of 3 for the red, 4 for the blue, and 2 for the green. And then you can use this bounty hunter, but that bounty hunter against your 1, a 1, and a 2. And so the more bounty hunters you use to try and obtain the correct score for the bounty, the greater your negative score is going to be against that. So you might exert 12 points to catch a bounty that's worth 18. So really you're only making a net gain of 6 at the end of the game. But then hiring the droids, actually, they don't cost you any negative points, but they cost you credits. The only way to get credits is to, on your turn, instead of playing a card, you discard one and get a credit for it. So, of course, if you're discarding, yes, you're getting a credit, but you're not actually advancing your tableau at all. And the other interesting mechanic is while you're drafting, everyone starts with 4 cards. On your turn, you draft one, and then you play one or sell one, and then you pass those 4 to the next person. So it's not like Sushi Go where you start with 10 and then you've got 9, then 8, then 7. You've always got 4 that are moving around. And so it's kind of good because if you draft a good card, I can't play that one just yet, I'll pass it on and I hope that it comes back to me in two or three turns so I can play it. Or if someone else gets it, they go, oh, sweet, I'm going to use it. And then it's sort of gone. So there's a little bit of memory in there as well. And but it's really, really light. And the good thing is that it's kind of done at the same time. So much like Sushi Go as well. So everyone's playing at the same time. So it doesn't actually outstay its welcome. It really plays in 25, half an hour. The first time I played it with the boys, we played open-handed because Ollie hasn't played that many drafting games before. So I wanted to sort of help him. Once he picked it up, we were able to play the second game and he was able to sort of hold his 4 cards because it's only 4 cards or 5 cards. We've played other games where he's had a fistful of cards and he really struggles to hold all of the cards. But yeah, they really, really enjoyed it because they're suckers for Star Wars as well.
I actually got to play this myself as well, and it was great. It was super tight. It was 42-42, and I won on the tiebreaker.
Yeah,
and
right.
I really enjoyed it, and I was like droid heavy. I like the droids. I was like, bounty hunters, negative points, not for me.
Yep.
Like, let's go droids. it was just good. It was simple. It was the teachers were 5 minutes, not even. Like, it's so fast, and you just get straight into it and get stuck into it. And it is a game that you could play 3 games in a row, and it's only been an hour. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
and mix up your tactics each time you play as well. And it's funny because Ollie was pretty much just playing a straight. He was doing a bit of a mix. He was getting some droids and some bounty hunters. Jack was going all bounty hunters, but he was also going quite heavy bounties. So he was getting like 16, 18 points, but then offsetting that with all the negative points with the bounty hunters. Yeah. I was trying to get the droids, but then Jack ended up getting all 4 bounties. And on his last turn, Ollie got his 4th one as well, and I was still on 3. So I was way behind. But I actually won because I didn't have as many negative points against me by hiring bounty hunters. So, in that respect, it is quite balanced in terms of which tactic. There's no sort of perfect strategy. It completely depends on what's being passed around the table. So one thing I realized the first time we played it, we were playing it open just while I taught them. But then Jack could actually look and see what cards he was going to get next, because they were sitting on the table next to him. So that changed. That he jerried pretty quickly that, well, I won't play this one because I know that Ollie's going to give me that one next and I'll use that one instead. He's too smart for his own good, that kid. So the next time when we played cards not open but disclosed in our hands, he didn't do as well. So, but yeah, I just wanted to mention that because, and a big thanks to VR for giving us a copy to play Star Wars Bounty Hunters. Good fun. All right, it's time for our sizzles. I'm coming back to you, Dana. What's sizzling on episode 295 for you?
It's a game called Kutna Hora.
What'd you call me?
So Kutna Hora. Now, I'm going to just be upfront with this game. I taught this game. I played it a couple of times with my board game group ladies, and I then went to our local weekly gaming thing, and I decided, I could teach that game. Anyway, it was the worst teach I've ever done in my entire life.
We've all had those.
we have all had those, Alan. Don't worry, it's fine.
Oh my God, I have to apologise to Ben Todd was there, one of the Patreons. Oh my God, it was so
Were you
bad.
getting sweaty palms and it gets worse, hey? It doesn't get better. It gets worse and worse and worse.
Sweating talking about it. It was terrible. As I said, I had played it a couple of times, but look, I must admit it was a bit of time in between plays, and to be honest, I'd watched a video, but I don't actually think I'd read the rule book when I come to think about it now. So this is great practice. But anyway, I thought, I'll be right. Oh my God. There's nothing worse than teaching a game and
you don't know how to play?
And just making it up as you go along.
No, but two of the major areas for scoring I got completely wrong. And right. I'll tell you what, it was just God, I wish I could say a swear word right now, but it was so bad. Anyway, and
absolute Kutna Hora.
Yeah, that's right. It was rubbish. Anyway, but the game itself is good once I learned how to play it. Once other people taught me how to play it. So basically, it's called Kutna Hora because that's the name of a town in the Czech Republic, and it was known in the Middle Ages for mining silver. So if you'll have a look at the front of the box, it's got a big silver coin on the front. So to say that it's obviously about silver mining. And so the idea was that in the Middle Ages, once they discovered silver, everybody started flocking to the city. There was huge economic growth. And so your goal is to buy plots, build buildings and mines, and help construct the local church, and becoming the most prosperous person. So there's a lot going on in the game, but I do. It's funny I'm saying this, but if you get taught the game correctly, I think you could teach it after one play. But
so you're just basically reneging everything you said before.
I got it wrong. So I was just saying, I mean, I could have taught it, but I taught it wrong. So there you go. Right. Anyway, I thought it was pretty clever. The iconography is pretty good. But the main thing of the game is that there are 6 cards and you're going to play 2 of them. Then you're going to have another turn, play another 2, and then you're going to play 1. So you're going to be playing 5 cards every round, and there are 6 rounds, I think. And I really love like multi-use cards. I don't know whether you call this multi-use cards actually, but there's 2 sides to the cards. Yeah. You turn it upside down and it does something else. And so there are 6 actions in the game. So you can either buy a plot, which is basically buying a space on the map to be able to build a building later on. You can go to the market, and it's called buying rights, but you're buying rights to get a building that you can build onto the map. You can build your building. So that's 3 actions. It basically takes 3 actions just to basically build a building. And then you can help build the church. You can build a mine or gain income. That's it. That's the whole game. And the game flows really, really well. And as I said, it's so simple yet so satisfying to be able to pick from these hand of cards and decide what you're going to have to do each turn based as well on what other people are doing. And it's you're also having to that decision space of, okay, well, I need to buy a plot, but I've got income on the bottom of that card, and the only way I can get income, I've only got 1 income card left, so I don't know whether I'm going to be able to do that. And the other thing about this game that I find really interesting as well is that there's no real resources.
You mean there's no physical resource that you hold? It's all on the player board, isn't it?
Correct. Yes, that's a better way. Thank you, Adrian.
No worries. I played it.
Yeah,
I wouldn't try and teach it though.
Yeah, but that's it. Yeah, but anyway, yes. So you can't actually earn income at all in the game. You start with income. You start with 40. It's called groschen. You start with 40 groschen, but you can't earn income unless you've gotten your income tracks up. And the only way to do that is to build buildings. And so whenever you get income, as provided that you've got some sort of production tracks that have increased, you then go to the market. They're like these little gizmos. Well, they call them gizmos. They're little cardboard gizmos. And they've got, I don't know, like these little cardboard arrows that move left and right. And you're also, I'm not explaining this well at all, but you've got cards that simulate the movement of population and also the movement of supply and demand on these 2 little gizmos. They're like cardboard calculators, so to speak. And they will determine what each of the resources are valued at.
Hmm.
So when someone builds a wood building, for example, there's more supply, so therefore the price will go down. And it simulates that with these cards. They're actually quite clever, actually.
Yeah.
I must admit that in the game, it took me the first few games to actually really understand the nature of supply and demand. I would say that I'm not particularly good at economic games, but it does make a lot of sense. And you can even see when you do, for example, if someone builds too many buildings of one type, it actually prevents you from building any more buildings of that type. And it does that quite well with these cardboard gizmos. I don't know how it does it, but obviously there's a lot of play testing that's been done with it. But I have played this game at 2, 3, and 4. There's no solo mode for this game. There probably is an online one, maybe, on BGG, but there isn't an official one. And I think it plays really well at 4. 3 is okay, and 2 is not too bad. It reduces the space so that it's a little bit tighter for 2 players, which is good. I should say that when you're building buildings, the main parts of this game that are interesting for scoring that you're trying to build buildings and you're getting points for adjacent symbols. So you're trying to match symbols. There's a little bit of area control in the mining section, which will give you points, which, makes it interesting. So it's a really nice, I think it fits very well into the medium weight economic Euro type way. I don't think I would like to go any higher than that. Yeah.
I've only ever played it once and I was thoroughly blown away by the game. I thought it was brilliant. It was probably one of the best games I played over my birthday. Just gone, Harry actually taught me the game and I played it with Lauren, Def, and Tom. But however, after the one play, I understood it and I got it all, but I didn't feel confident enough to talk about it. Do you know what I mean? Because it is a lot of moving bits. Yeah. And the thing that I found...
I didn't stop Dana.
Yeah, that's it.
Oh, shocker. Absolute shocker. No one, we're going to have game days. No one is going to sign up for a teach to that.
Yeah. Well, the thing that I found most interesting is, and you'll have to completely correct me on this because I'm not exactly sure how it worked because everyone set up my stuff while I was busy doing other things. But essentially your player board, you lock in 3 different industries, which is part of the market, but everybody has different industries. So you gain money depending on what industry you have is doing well when you gather that income, but it changes. The other players can manipulate that to be in their benefit, which will make your wood worth less than
correct. Well, there are 6 guilds, and you will only ever be able to build 3 of them. You're going to represent 3 of those. So in a 4-player game, there'll be 2 of you for each of those particular guilds. And there's actually only 4 buildings in each type. So there's quite a bit of competition for those guilds. And you're absolutely right. People will, depending on what they do, can change the effect of the game. And suddenly you're making it very expensive for you because you need to pay wood, for example, to build buildings, and they'll suddenly make wood extremely expensive for you to build. It's very, very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really interesting.
I thought it was great game. I'd love to grab it at some point.
Yeah, really, really good.
I'd be interested in learning it as well. Amy and Maggie taught it at one of our Melbourne game days, and everyone walked away from that going, wow, that was such a great game. And I popped over and I sat down because I normally just work the room, and I sat in and while they were playing it, and I saw what you're referring to with the little sort of economic where things move up and down and things are worth this, and then and it's really, really clever little calculator, as you say, that determines the price and the value of different things. It's really interesting. So that's Kutna Hora, Dana's sizzle for this week. Adrian, what's sizzling down your way?
Mate, I've got to play a new variation of my number 1 game, and it's been my number 1 game for years, and that's Barrage Duel. And I was very lucky enough to playtest this game in its early stages. And I'm now playing the final product on the table, which is slightly different to some of those earlier playtests. And it's just so good. So anyone that likes Barrage and enjoys playing it, you will know that once you've played it enough times, especially if you've played it at 2-player, 3-player, and 4-player, when you go back to playing the original map on 2-player, you just got too much space. And the game, the fun and the flourishing, and the game really thrives in that tightness. Like, you need that board to be tight because that's where the fun is. The annoyance of other players is the fun. And once you've mastered the game or played it 5, 6, 10 times or whatever, when you start to play at 2-player, like I said, you feel like you've just got so much freedom, because in a 4-player game, it's so tight. The map doesn't change from the 4-player to the 2-player. So there's no difference. So having a dual version, not only is the map smaller, it loses like a third of its map size or a quarter of its map size, essentially. The pipes and the networks on the map go in completely different directions and different spaces. So it's a new puzzle for anyone that's really played the game a lot. And not only that, at the start of the game, there's places on the board where you can usually build. You can build here, build there. You've got plenty of space to do all these buildings, including the conduits and the power stations. They're unlimited. You can always build them in any of the spaces. There's no neutral dams or neutral elevations to sort of block those areas. So in the dual version, at the start of the game, you get these 8 tokens, and they are different icons of different buildings. And you get these 8 numbers, and they're shuffled and mixed together. And essentially in a big line of 8, you put out the buildings, and a big line of 8, you put the tokens. You flip the tokens. They've got a number 1 to 8, and that corresponds to a certain area on the map. And then you block those spaces.
Right.
So they cannot be built. So you'll have level 4 conduit, which are like, sweet, that actually works out really well that it goes into here and then down there, and I can build off this because there's a neutral dam here already. But you can't, because you've put a little blocker on, so that conduit can never be built. That space is gone from the game. So then you're like, okay, so if I can't send water this way, why would I build over here? So that just makes it even tighter, and it really squashes you together. It's got a really interesting push and pull tug of war mechanic as well, which essentially at the end of each round, when the water all flows down, for anyone that knows Barrage, at the end of the round, water comes down the mountains and it gets caught in the dams. It happens at the end of every round, apart from the last round. And in this game, once that stage has happened, rather than checking the energy and seeing who made most energy this round, you have this little board, and that's all completely randomized. There's all these random tokens that get placed on it. And essentially it's 3 tracks, okay, with a line down the center, and then 7 spaces going left and right. And that represents the duel. Like, you're down the middle, you start on that line in the center, and depending on the achievements made by each player in the game, the difference of those achievements will be how far the marker moves. So as an example, if I had say one of those achievements was 3 gold, right? And at the end of the round, I had 9 gold and Dan had 3 gold. The difference would be 2, because I've got 3 sets and he's got 1 set. And then it would swing 2 steps towards me. Now on that track, at the start, it's 1 point, then it goes 3 points, 5 points, 7 points, all the way up to 15 points at the end of the game. But on the track as well, as you push it along that track, when it meets the 3rd and the 5th space or the 6th space, there's actually little unlock bonuses that you can get. So you actually flip the tile and you might gather 3 money and get a free click of the wheel, or you might get 4 extra energy that round. So you get these bonuses. And the really, really interesting bit is kind of like in It's a Wonderful World, how you start with the top and you do the first bit and then you move to the next one, then you move to the next one. These bonuses and these actions that happen can affect what happens further down the track. So as an example, if I move the marker to the left and I gained 5 money, and then the scoring bonus for the next scoring bonus was the money one, I then have 5 extra money for that round tracker. One of them might be drop water down into a dam, which is quite common in the game. You instantly get a drop and it drops down. And one of those scoring round bonuses might be count the water drops in your personal dams. So that extra bonus can shift the tide and really push another player. And it's been phenomenal. I've had really tight games with it, and I've played it 6 times, and I've absolutely loved every single game. It's just an excuse to play this game in an hour or less. Like me and G-Money, he'd never played the Duel version before. He came around, I went through the rules, spoke about the extra bits. He already knows how to play Barrage. And we played 2 games in 2 hours and 20 minutes. Done. Like, it was just smooth, bump, bump, bump. You can play it with the expansion as well, but we didn't do that because we're not crazy. There's enough in the game with just the base game. And yeah, if you like Barrage and you're looking to play it more and you want to be able to play it head to head or as a 2-player option because, you know, you really want to have a tighter space if you played it a bunch, it's phenomenal. Like, I wouldn't teach this game, the Duel version, I wouldn't teach it because it's just so tight for a player that hasn't, they'll just get creamed. Like, it will be very hard for you to move and you'd feel that tightness. Whereas you could play the base game a couple of times so you get a feel for it. And if the other person really enjoys that game and they're like, man, I want to play more of this, I would introduce them to this version. And then you could just keep going head to head and playing it like this. So yeah, brilliant. Absolutely loved it.
Is there anything in this game, because I remember you sent a photo on Discord about your collection of rule books for Barrage. I don't know, I think 8. You've
something
got 8,
like that.
8 rule books or something like that with all the stuff that you've got. Is there anything that you want for that game outside of what you already have? Like,
I like the difference in the factions. I really enjoy playing the different factions because they've got such a different style. And you can kind of, like in Gaia Project, you play the game completely differently. And I feel that once you've played this game many, 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 many times, that comes to life more. I feel that, and I know this is like, not to sound disingenuous to anyone that's played it 10 or 15 times and, you know, feels that they know the game very well. I think that once you played this game 50, 100 plus times, you really can see those finer details and how important they are and how you can really exploit them in crazy ways. And I think that's the fun. I think that knowing, and I don't know a game like this. So for me, I really, and I've had my butt kicked online all the past couple of weeks in this 1v1 World Cup. And when I see how they play and some of their moves, it inspires me to keep playing it and learn more about it. So,
are all the factions compatible with Duel?
Everything, yeah.
Wow,
everything.
That's great.
Yep, the expansion's compatible. I believe there's one small element that's not. And for me, on a personal note, it doesn't say you can't do it, but there's some officers, because in Barrage, the game, everybody has a faction and you all get an officer. And that pairing together is kind of how you'll play the game. There'll be different exploits and different abilities that your officer and your faction or your country kind of lean into. There are ones that I would not play with in the Duel version because it would be too hard. They wouldn't benefit as much. There's one officer that copies the ability of the other officers by placing someone there, which is great. If you've got 4 officers and you've got lots to choose from in a 5-player game. Yeah. But if you're playing 1v1, your ability is place a worker, copy their power that they get for free. It's not balanced at all. I wouldn't ever do that. So if I ever plucked that one out, I would just discard it straight away and pick a different one. So
I have played Barrage twice, and it's one of those games that I just don't freaking get it. I don't know what I don't know what it is, but I just don't get it. I'm there on the first turn, and I actually say, I have no idea what the hell I'm doing. And then to think it's a big, long game, the thought of playing the dual version is a bit more appealing, but you're saying that that's not good to go straight away with that game.
If you've got two people that haven't played the game very much, completely fine, because you're kind of on an even playing field. But if you've got someone who's played it a lot and they really enjoy playing it and they've played it multiple times and they're teaching this game to somebody new, that wouldn't be an enjoyable experience for that player potentially, because not only will they feel the tightness and the crunch of the resources and the management of the water and all this other stuff, they'll also realize they don't have a lot of space to build. So for a player who's played it a lot, they will know these moves and they will understand some of these systems that they can exploit. Whereas someone who hasn't, that would be a struggle. So if I was to teach this, I'm going to teach it to my mum actually when she comes out at Christmas. This is the one that she really wants to play. She knows it's my favorite. She's like, I want to learn it. I'd love to play it. We won't play the dual version for a few games. And if she'd like to try the dual version, we'll try the dual version. But it's still enough of a resource management puzzle in just the base map. You don't need to play the dual unless you want to really tight crunch, basically. So that's it. Barrage Duel, more Barrage. I love it. I can't get enough.
Well, I'm gonna round things out with my sizzle. And I wasn't really sure what I was going to sizzle this week, but I'm going to sizzle a game which was one of my oaths, and I had a quick look, and it hasn't been sizzled since April 2022. So a bit of water's been under the bridge since we've discussed this game. And I know it's a favorite of Dana's as well, and that game is Creature Comforts. And the only word I have for this game is it is so charming. It is. I didn't know a lot about it, to be honest, and I picked a copy up from my friends at More Than Meeples. Bought this, and I also bought the Kickstarter version of Maple Valley, which
that's a really good shop, by the way.
Yeah, I've heard good things about More Than Meeples, mostly from you, Dana. Funnily enough, but
the staff's not that great, is it? Really, sometimes
the service sucks.
Yeah.
Some of their more recent hires are a little dubious, I must admit. But
the lady there trying to teach me Kutna Hora had no idea what she was doing.
Anyway, I've got a real thing for, and this is actually the first kids' table board game published game that I've played. But since buying Creature Comforts and Maple Valley, I've actually got a few more on pre-order directly from KTBG. I've got Cafe Barras up. I've got Diced Veggies. Wasabi. I think they changed the name of that to Maki. But anyway, I've got a few more waiting in the wings, and they're on their way. But the designer, Roberta Taylor, she's actually designed both this and Maple Valley, and she also designed Cafe Barras, which is coming as a new release this year. And the artist as well. The artist, Shauna, I wrote this down, Shauna J.C. Tenney. She's done this, Maple Valley, and also Bugs on Beds. And it's a worker placement / resource management / push your luck game. But it's really all those three mechanics together. They work really well, and it's a really fun, easy game. I've played this a couple of times solo, and I've played it with Jen as well. And you play a type of forest creature. So winter is coming, and the game plays over the 3 seasons. It plays over spring, summer, autumn, or fall in the game. And you're trying to get your creature comforts together before winter hits. And as winter hits, then the game is over and you add up the point values of your creature comforts. And the creature comforts are a pair of socks. It's a fireplace. It's a pantry. It's some preserved goods. It's what are those tennis racket shoes that you put on your feet so you can walk in the snow? Anyway.
Yeah, snowshoes.
Yeah, snowshoes. I guess they would be called snowshoes. Yes. Yeah. The shoes you wear when you walk in the snow. Yeah, snowshoes. I probably should have figured that. But the way it works is really clever because there's certain areas of the board of the forest where you can collect different resources: wood, stone, fruit, what have you. And some of them are like a marketplace that the cards all shift across one at the end of every turn. One of them is a rondel, which rotates at the end of every turn. One of them is there's the inn where the traveler who's at the inn, you can use them to get certain benefits. And the way you do that is by placing dice. Everyone has two dice of their color, and then you have 4 so they're the family dice. Then you have 4 village dice, with just your plain white dice. And so you know what you need to actually get certain things. And you roll your 2 dice to start with. So you might roll a 4 and a 5. So you know that if you want to get the wood from over there, you'll need to have a 4 and a 5. Or you need to have 2 values that are one away from each other. So a 3 and a 4, a 4, a 5, 5, or a 6. To go over here, if you want to get stone, you'll need to place a 6. To go over here, you'll need to place this or that. And so you get your 4 workers, and everyone at the same time puts their little creatures out. So you put whoever's playing squirrels puts their 4 squirrels out. Whoever's playing the mouse gets to put their 4 mouse out. And then you roll the 4 family dice, and everyone uses those dice. So you've kind of hedged your bets a little bit, because you know what your 2 dice are, but you don't know what the 4 shared dice, the shared dice, are going to be at that point. Then they go on the little mountain, the little mound in the middle of the forest, and on your turn, you just use your 2 family dice and the other dice to then collect the things that you need. And then at the end of your turn, once you've collected a whole bunch of resources, then you can start to cash them in and go, well, to get the preserved fruit, I need 4 fruits. So I'm going to cash in my 4 fruits, and now I'm going to have this little creature comfort in front of me, and that's worth points at the end. But a lot of the creature comforts, in fact, most of the creature comforts get benefits from their likes. So if you have the pantry might be worth 6 points in the game. But if you also have the preserved fruits, they go in the pantry, so that means the pantry is worth a bonus 3. Or if you have the ski boots, that might be worth 2 points. But if you've got the socks as well, then your ski boots are now worth an extra 2. And so you are looking at the marketplace part, which is actually set in the owl's nest, of what creature comforts you want to get, because you've already got the atlas. So if I can get a couple more of these books, then I can put those books in the atlas, and now they're going to be worth more points at the end of the game. And so everyone's kind of doing their own thing. It reminds me a little bit of Everdell in that aspect, where certain people there'll be certain cards out there in the forest or in the valley or over there in the field where it's of interest to you but might not be of interest to someone else, or alternatively you both want that card from the marketplace. And just quickly, there's also these inventions which you can build as well. And the inventions, some of them are really clever. One of them is a wheelbarrow, which you can assign to one of your creatures, and then they'll get a bonus resource. So the wheelbarrow is a really cool thing to build at the start of the game. So then for all subsequent rounds, you get a bonus. And it's just a charming game. It's so easy to play. I like the fact that there's certain things that are happening all at the same time. So the game only lasts maybe 50 minutes, an hour. The solo actually plays really, really tight. All you're doing is you're just playing through the seasons, and you're trying to beat your score. And it's got a charming little thing at the end where it asks you 4 questions. What type of creature comfort did you have the most of? How many inventions did you build? How many creature comforts did you have, and what was your score? And each of those will give you a little word. And so outside of your final score, you might be a charming, fruitful squirrel of the field or of the valley or something like that. So it gives you a little title at the end as well as your score, which is kind of cute. So I've been putting those into my BG stats, what my little title was at the end as well. So that's really cool.
It's funny you mentioned Everdell, because the board game card in the game is a picture of Everdell.
There's Everdell, there's Wingspan.
Oh, the Easter eggs,
Yeah, speaking of Easter eggs, a few weeks ago, yes. Yeah. So that's one of the creature comforts is board games. And if you have some toys, the toys go with the board games, and so now your board games are more valuable in terms of points at the end of the game. So yeah, it's just really, 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 really charming. I got it because I thought it would be good for the kids. Again, we've got a problem with Ollie because it's only 5, so he can't read that great. And so I decided to play it solo a little bit, again, just so I could get the hang of it. And then it's easier for me to then teach Jen. And she just thought it was absolutely charming as well. We played it one night after dinner, and it was great. But this is going to be a keeper. This is going to be on the shelf for a long time. So I'll be able to get the boys to rope them in to play a game as well eventually. But no, I've been absolutely enamored with creature comforts, and it's the Kickstarter edition too. So it's the wooden tokens; they're really, really cool. There's a couple of expansions that came with it as well. So if you are interested, I recommend you try and track down the Kickstarter edition. Just the wooden tokens are so much nicer than the cardboard sort of punch outs.
And how good is the insert?
Oh, game trays. Every time a game uses game trays as their official, the game trays, the company, as their official game inserts, it's pack up and pack down. It's just a dream. In fact, all of basically the component tray, you just take it out of the box and put it straight on the table. Done. You don't have to worry about anything else. So yeah, it's a dream. And the cards are linen finish. It's just the artwork is outstanding. It's such a charming little game.
It's great.
Yes.
Fantastic. It's a favourite of my game group.
Mm.
I play it regularly.
Yeah. So, yes, that's Creature Comforts. So our sizzles were Kutna Hora, Barrage, Duel, and Creature Comforts.
If you're looking for a new board game, you need to check out adventgames.com.au. They have a great range of games, including pre-orders and hot new games. Anything you could be looking for will be there at Advent. Dean provides excellent customer service that is second to none, and he's always keen to support the Australian board game community through events, game days, and even through sponsoring a podcast. So head over to adventgames.com.au today. That's adventgames.com.au.
All right, we're going to get on to some announcements and news now. You know it's coming, July 12th to 14. It's PlayCon, and we've got a couple of shout-outs. Dana and Lauren did some posts on our socials recently, and we were asking people where they were coming from. And it looks like from the comments, well, we're going to do some shout-outs because Ian O'Toole and Game with Rich, they may be winning. Maybe winning the 10 points. There was no prize or anything, but it looks like they're coming the furthest. They're traveling from Perth. In fact, Game with Rich tells us that he's even made his own shirts for the event. So I looked forward to see him and his family coming along with their own gaming shirts. We also want to give a shout out to some others who are making the trek. Just to name a few: Narelle Williams and Madeline Atkins are coming from Tassie, Craig Westbury, Matt West coming from Adelaide, Sharon Young from Geelong, Nellie Style and Cindy from Melbourne and the surrounding suburbs. Luke Aitken and Meeple Misses are coming from Toowoomba in Queensland. Matt Woods from Brizzy. Shannon Taylor is only 5 minutes down the road, so thanks for making the effort. Is that down the road from you, Dana, or is that down the road from...
I think down the road from the event.
Down the road from the event.
Okay.
Yeah,
so,
wow.
Oh, and is this the same Sharon Taylor that was offering that people could crash at her place? So we'll put her details in the...
in the show notes.
We'll link her address in the show notes.
Or the after party.
Yeah,
after party.
That's it. But thanks so much to everyone who's supporting the event, not only supporting the event and coming along, because there aren't that many tickets left. I think, Adrian, am I right in saying that all the 3-day passes are sold out, Saturday passes are sold out, and there aren't many Sunday and Friday left?
We're like 95% now on the other 2 days, on the Friday and the Sunday. It's a done deal. So, yeah, massive thanks to everybody for supporting the event. It means so much to us and to the actual board gaming community, because we don't really have anything like this. And we hope
but it's not just ticket sales. Dana and Lauren have been putting a lot of stuff on socials as well, and it's just the fact that people are actually engaging. They're really excited. And in fact, Dana, what was the post you did this week with giving people a taste of the trivia night?
Yes, the trivia night is going to be on the Friday night. I think it's 7:30 p.m. And we thought we would just put in some practice trivia just to get people in the mood. So it'd be great to hear your answers. And just for last week...
Oh, how about you tell everyone what the trivia was, and for those who haven't seen it already, and we can tell them the answer at the end of the show.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, first question of the trivia practice is, what do the following artists have in common? Duran Duran, Madonna, Paul McCartney and Wings, Garbage.
We'll give that answer.
Did you just say Paul McCartney and Wings were garbage?
No, it sounded like that. I should have probably put the answers the other way around.
Paul McCartney and Wings, garbage.
So, and if anyone came to our trivia night at South by Southwest last year, you'll know what to expect. It's a lot of fun. There'll be 6 rounds of trivia plus some bonus questions as well, and we'll probably have some giveaways. So it's just a nice little thing for us to do and take a little bit of a break, have a few drinkies, and then after the trivia's over on Friday night, get back into the free play area and play some more games. I know a lot of the content creators and designers and whatnot that are coming along to PlayCon, they're already saying that they're looking forward to trivia night on the Friday as well. So
I've heard that Garfield Games are having a team. They've got a team going. Right. So yeah, watch out for the Kiwis.
Like, I know a lot of people with trivia feel a bit bad because they feel like they're not very good at it. But this is the kind of trivia I think that is really good for everybody.
Yeah. I can tell you, I've almost written all the questions, and they're not. There is one round of board games, but there's movie trivia, there's TV trivia, there's music, there's sport. So there's something for everyone, and that's the thing with trivia as well. Get a team together. Someone on your team will know an answer to one of these. I won't be stumping all of you, hopefully. And I've tried to because I love doing the trivia. So I try to write questions where it's like, oh, I know that one. It's it's on the tip of my tongue. If I see people sort of wrapping their brains or blocking their ears while they try and sing a song to try and get to the chorus, then I know I've done a good question. So it's a lot of fun. And we'll be dropping some little hints. As Dana said, there'll be more trivia, sort of practice questions, but also we'll be dropping a few more information each week about what's coming up at PlayCon as we get closer to July 12 to 14. Must also mention a big thanks to everyone who nominated their favourite games of 2023 for our 4th annual Board Game BBQ Awards. Nominations are now closed, and we have, as of this recording, we're handing the voting over to our esteemed panel of judges, which are our Patreons. So they're going to be voting on the winners for the 8 categories over the next week and a half, and we'll announce all the winners live at PlayCon in July. Something else if you look forward to seeing. And if you're not familiar with what the Board Game BBQ Awards are, we've got the first 3 awards from 2021, 22, and 23 that we filmed. They're all on our YouTube channel, so you can go and check them out. In fact, we had some great assistance last year from some content creators around the world, and that was really, really fun to have them involved in our Board Game BBQ Awards, and we've got something special planned again this year.
I've just got to stop you right there, Dan.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're forgetting something.
Your 60th?
Anything? No. Now, this is right about now that a woman would be getting very annoyed.
Oh, I know what you're going to say.
What?
Dana, did I forget our anniversary?
You did. Adrian, you too.
Sorry.
Shame on you.
Terrible.
You're right.
It's our 4th anniversary, as in our 4 years since the podcast started.
Yeah.
And what a journey it's been, especially for me since I've only been here for 6 months. And all the hard work was basically done before I got here.
You do loads.
Yeah. You were supporting the show before you were actually on the show. Same as Lauren, same as Joe.
You know, teaching Kutna Hora wrong, doing your thing.
Yeah.
Seriously, could you have ever imagined that when you first started this podcast,
no, and
you're now about to have a board game convention?
Yeah. Well, but yeah, and episode 300 is knocking on the door as well. So it's, 2024 is a massive, massive, massive year for us, and we couldn't have done any of it without our community, without our listeners. So you are right, Dana. Very remiss of us not to mention.
We also had back-to-back BGG nominations, which is pretty crazy as well. So yeah, it's pretty nuts, pretty wild,
cracker. So yes, happy 4 years to both of you. Happy 4 years to our listeners as well. Some of them, and we still get listeners who just discover the podcast and then they'll go all the way back to episode 1 and just start working their way through it and binging it. So if you're still doing that, we can only apologize at how bad some of those episodes have been in the early days, and probably some of the current ones are not that great either. But
just the ones I'm on are not that great.
We appreciate each and every one of our listeners.
But yeah, another thing on that note, actually, anyone that is listening to these old episodes and joining Discord and stuff, please tell us what ones you're listening to, because we see the stats. I see people listen to these old ones, and it's kind of cool to reminisce and talk about it. Don't feel like you are behind the times and you don't want to disturb anybody. Just jump in the podcast channel on the Discord or on Facebook and just say, hey, I'm listening to episode 179. You guys are so wrong. You got no idea. So yeah, it's good. Go back to the old ones where I called root a euro. Go back there.
And speaking of reminiscing, we're actually going to be doing a little bit of that on episode 300, which is going to be something special that we're going to be recording in a few weeks. It's only 5 weeks away from episode 300. So yeah, stay tuned for that coming up. But thank you for reminding us, Dana, and happy 4 years to both of you and to everyone out there listening.
What is that in marriage terms? Is it like balsa wood or like what is it like?
Oh, it'd be like paper. No, it'd be like paper, something like that. It's nothing. 4 years is nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. We've just been saying 4 years is brilliant, and now you're saying it's nothing.
I need a real commitment.
Okay.
All right. Well, we'll see who's still here next year. Then we can talk.
That's right.
All right, it's time for Question of the Pod, and we're quickly going to recap last week's Question of the Pod, which something near and dear to my heart. What is your favourite piece of board game trivia? And the community did not disappoint. Adrian, Do you want to share what was on Facebook? A couple of responses.
Yeah, so we had Kevin Berry reach out and say the scoring track around the edge of a board is called a Kramer track, named after Wolfgang Kramer, who designed the first with a track on it, first game with a track on it. Heimlich and Co. Yeah, it's I never knew that. I never knew the Kramer track.
Never
heard of it before. Never ever. So, and we had Stephen Lake reach out and said that Mr. Cuddington, who did the games like Charterstone and Unfair, also did the art for Brass Birmingham. And then James added that Mr. Cuddington are actually two people.
They're actually a married couple from Quebec.
Oh, wow.
And yeah.
Cool.
So,
I never knew that. So I will add my bit of trivia.
We were talking before the show, and you reminded us of something that you,
The only thing that I knew about trivia is that Alice Cooper got his name from playing a Ouija board. And a Ouija board used to be a popular board game that you could buy in the 70s. It was a branded thing.
But it was like from Parker Brothers, I think. Or
it was. Yeah, full on. But it was pretty cool.
Dana, anything on Discord you can dig up?
Jonathan says that I will always appreciate how Monopoly was used to save lives during World War II. POWs were allowed to get the gifts of board games from the UK in Nazi Germany occupied territories, and the UK Secret Service arranged for escape gear to be smuggled in via Monopoly boxes. Well, there you go. There's something good about Monopoly. And and Lauren, I believe this is Lauren from the podcast.
This is our Lauren.
Yeah, our Lauren. I just found out how North Star Games was named, and I can't tell if this is legit, but if it is, wow. Dominic captained an Alaskan salmon fishing boat for 12 seasons, but in his heart, he always dreamed about starting a board game company. One stormy night, his boat took on enough water to submerge the batteries in the engine room. All of the electronics went dead. And Dom was forced to guide his boat home by the North Star. And he vowed that if he survived, he would stop fishing and follow his dream. In 2003, he weighed anchor and started North Star Games.
Oh, very cool.
That was a great story. Yeah. North Star Games. I think they did Evolution.
Craxter Quedlinburg.
Yeah.
The first Craxter Quedlinburg.
We've had Dominic on the show before. So I think that
Oceans.
And also, Thomas says, did you know that the Board Game BBQ purchase pen, though used hundreds of times and mentioned quite often on my favourite podcast, still isn't available anywhere?
See, I dispute that. I think the board game purchase pen is any pen. I think it's a concept as opposed to just a physical thing. Any pen can be a purchase pen.
Well, I just used the purchase pen tonight.
I wrote something down as well with my purchase pencil, but so there you go.
Yeah.
Okay, so and you can
wait. Hang on.
Oh.
Wait.
Oh, hang on.
I've got some more trivia. Sorry,
Okay.
I did have one. I looked it up. Okay, the first game to be entered on BGG in 2000 was a game called Demarker, as in Macher. That was the very first game. And it's currently sitting at rank 424. It's rated 7.6.
It's still ranked.
Yes, and it's an economic negotiation game published by Hans im Glück. And it actually sits between two really well-known games, and I've never seen it or heard it before. It actually sits between Downforce and King of Tokyo.
Wow.
Never heard of it.
Interesting.
Yeah, never heard of it. There you go.
Good trivia.
Well done.
Good one. All right. Well, a new question of the pod. I thought of this during the week because I was actually lucky enough to be invited on Hobart ABC Radio to talk about board games. They had a small segment on, I think it was Monday morning, and talking about board games. And it just reminded me how much we are involved in the board game community here in Australia and the board game industry, I suppose. But there are still people out there that aren't aware of modern board gaming and how broad it is and how exciting it is and how many different games there are on the market. And yes, there's some of the bigger chain stores are now starting to get some of the modern board games in there, like Target and JB Hi-Fi and Big W and Zing and some of those games. But it used to be, back in the day, it used to be just the specialist stores like Mind Games or the specialist board gaming stores. And so my question for the pod this week is, what game do you use to introduce new people to modern board gaming, and why? Why that particular game? Because I was on the radio and people were phoning in because it was Talkback Radio. And a big shout out to anyone who was listening from Hobart ABC Radio and are listening to us for the first time. And I thought this would be a good topic for you as well, so that if you haven't played many modern board gamings, get your purchase pen out and jump onto our socials during the week, because our community is going to help you out with some absolute bangers. And I'll throw the question open to you guys as well. When you teach people new people modern board games, what are some of your go-tos and why?
I really think you have to know your audience first, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you've got someone that wants something really thinky and wordy or something along those lines, you would definitely go to, your So Clovers, your Decrypto, your Just Once and stuff. But if you want to play like a modern, actual sort of board gaming experience, I think you can't go wrong with Quacks of Quedlinburg. Like, I know it's completely luck driven. I get that. But you're talking about people who've never played games where you're not sort of rolling and moving. Mm. So I feel like it's a great introduction to something that's completely different, but very fun. But you feel like you're achieving something. You're building your little engine. You've got your little bag builder. And these are the concepts that a lot of people don't know about. And I feel that that's a great game. It might be a bit too long for some people, I think, potentially. I've never had a problem myself. But yeah, I think it's a great game. It's simultaneous play as well for the most part. Yeah. You're all pulling out the chips out of the bag. Everyone gets to buy chips and like, oh, what are you buying? And there's a bit of a discussion about, oh, well, I'm not going to buy a black chip if you're buying a black chip, because that's not going to help me that much and things like that. And I just think that, I think it's a great game. And I think the game is one of the games that will stand the test of time. I think you could teach Quacks in 10 years' time and it would have the same fun, the same appeal.
I agree.
Yeah, good call. For me, well, actually, I had a look at the question of the pod and I thought, I'll grab some games just to remind me. But I think I would probably teach something like So Clover or Just One. They're very good games to start off with. But one that I often recommend is Cockroach Poker, I think, as just a sort of like a early card game to play. It's fairly simple to teach and it's something family friendly. And I say that because a lot of the people that I play games with generally have families, I would say. Yep. And also they're mostly women as well that play with their children, things like that. So I would probably recommend that. But one that I've only just recently been playing, and it's actually just come onto BGA recently, but I think is a really good family game that I would teach. I'm not sure if you've heard of it or not, but it's called Super Mega Lucky Box.
Yes.
Yes. I really like that game. It's basically bingo, sort of bingo, but it's got a few things mixed in with it. And like Adrian was saying with Finn, you could quite easily take some of those things out and just play with one extra thing, add that in, for example, that you could change the result of the number that comes out if you have certain tokens or something like that. You could just bring that in and leave the rest out and then add another rule. But Super Mega Lucky Box is a really clever game, and I've actually been playing it repeatedly on BGA and really enjoying it. So that's one game that I would recommend. Yeah.
You raised a couple of interesting points then. First of all, BGA, for those that aren't aware, Board Game Arena is a website where you can play a lot of these games online. You can play them some solo, and that's a really good way to sort of dip your toe in the water. But you mentioned it's basically bingo. But for people who their only experience is playing bingo, it's the perfect segue to go to rather than dropping them in the deep end or dropping in something that they might feel is the deep end. Super Mega Lucky Box is a great one that they can then venture into other things that might have like a roll and write style element to them. An example that I'd like to use is that if your only experience with board gaming is playing Yahtzee, then Gunshot Clever is a great segue to that because you're still playing with your dice, but you're using those dice, you're using what you roll in a unique way that is not that far removed from Yahtzee. And then you don't have to think about too much, but now you're being introduced to not just marking things off your sheet, but now you're getting combinations of this gets me this, which is something that Yahtzee doesn't offer. If you like rolling dice, then maybe Dice Throne. Again, it's almost like battling Yahtzee, isn't it? So if you're used to rolling dice in Yahtzee and then getting those sets or runs and things like that, well then Dice Throne introduces the concept of using those sets and runs to actually reduce the health points of the person opposite you. So I think that's really great. That's kind of what I had in mind when we were looking for it. And we all know, us who play a lot of modern board games, we all know what the great gateway games are. But I'm more interested in why this is your go-to, or that is your go-to game when teaching new people. I really want to hear why, not just say, Ticket to Ride. Why Ticket to Ride? Ticket to Ride is probably a good one for people who are just used to Monopoly. Maybe. I don't know, maybe something else that is set collection, maybe something else that is sort of real estate or finance or economic. But again, a nice little gateway because we want to ease these people in and then we want to get them into the community. And before you know it, they're playing Vital Deserter and Twilight Imperium 4th edition. So did you have another one you wanted to raise, Adrian? Or?
Yeah, there's actually one that I thought about quite a lot because I find that for me personally, I think Viticulture is a great game, but I feel that it's a little bit too much for a brand new first player. For a worker placement concept. So I found that Century: A New World was a really good, extremely basic entry-level worker placement game. That was one of the ones that I sort of started playing with as a worker placement game. And I found it's so solid. It's great. I've played it with Finn a bunch of times as well. It's so simple, but super thinky, and it has a lot of depth to it for such a sort of fluid and easy worker placement game. But that's the one that I always find that the hardest one to address is that people who've never played any games before, and you're saying, it's a worker placement game. You place a worker, you get some stuff, and you want to get more stuff so you can get better things and better cards and better buildings. A lot of people have never known these concepts. So I even find that maybe for some people, maybe Architects of the West Kingdom might be a little bit too much. So I would like to know what would be the most entry level get worker placement, like a proper board game, not just a card game. I really like to know what board games would be the harder ones to. So that's the hard one to approach, I think. I think card games we're kind of used to holding cards and they share some concepts, but I find that the board game thing is so different. It's very hard to introduce some of these mechanics because they all have very different mechanics. Like, you've got a Mancala, you've got a Rondel, you've got worker placement, and all of these, there's entry levels of all of them. But what is the one you would teach and go to be the first game you teach someone to not put them off games, So, yeah.
That's actually the main – this is so weird, isn't it? This is why we're a cult. What is going to make them want to continue doing it and not scare them away?
Yeah. Yep.
There's a lot of thought that goes into it when I introduce a game to someone.
Yes, same.
It's like,
100%.
Come, join us.
Yeah.
Join us.
When we have friends over for the first time and they know that I'm going to bust out a board game, I'll spend all afternoon trying to decide what board game I should introduce to them so that they'll come back and want to play another one next time.
Yeah.
Sidebar question. Has anyone been told off or discouraged by their partner about getting board games out as soon as people arrive? Because I have. And that's from someone that plays board games would be a lot as well. MJ's like, look, we're just going to hang out. We don't need to get board games out straight away. Let's catch up first, So, yeah.
Yeah.
I think I've had that from my kids, actually. And then one of my daughter's friends actually asked to play a board game, and my daughter was like,
gross.
Yeah, very cool. So hit up the socials. You'll see this question, that question of the pod for this week. What game do you use to introduce new people to modern board gaming, and why? I'm really interested in hearing some of the responses. And if you are new to board games, then check out our Instagram, our Discord, our Facebook, and our Twitter, and you'll see some great responses. And get out the purchase pen and maybe try some for yourself. Okay, it's time to swear an oath now, but before we do, just want to give a quick shout out to our community. Thank you so much to our Patreons for all of your support. This week, Mitch and I have recorded a Patreon podcast where we do a deep dive and a very spoilery chat about Ticket to Ride Legends of the West. We both completed our campaign. We go through pretty much everything. We leave a few things mysterious, but we do a bit of a deep dive. So if you don't want to have it spoiled, you can skip that one. There's plenty of other Patreon pods that we've done exclusively for our patrons, which you can find over on the Patreon channel. And if you want to support the podcast, you can always go to patreon.com/Board Game BBQ and sign up for yourself. That way you'll get access to exclusive podcast episodes that we do just for our Patreons. You'll have access to the whole catalogue of Patreon podcasts, not to mention everything that we're going to be doing this year, including Christmas pods, which we do. We do 12 pods of Christmas at the end of the year, and there's also trivia and Jackbox nights that we do especially just for our Patreons. But there's plenty of ways to support the podcast without donating, and the easiest way is, of course, to tell your mates. If you're playing games one night at a local pub or at your mate's place, just say, hey, have you guys heard the Board Game BBQ? We love the word of mouth, and we get new followers and new listeners every single week because of all of you. You can also go to Apple Podcasts, leave a star rating and a review for us, or Spotify's new rating system. It only takes a few seconds, but it means so much to us, and it helps with the algorithms to push our podcast up. You can also get involved in the Board Game BBQ community by joining our Facebook community. Follow us on X, Instagram, or YouTube. And there's, of course, as we mentioned earlier, there's the Discord community where there's always games and conversations going on. People are jumping on 8 o'clock at night going, anyone up for a game? And they'll be playing games on Tabletop Simulator, or they'll be playing games on Board Game Arena. So get involved, support the show. All the links are in the show notes for that. And now it's time to swear an oath, where we check in on our oath from last week and swear a new one. Dana, what was your oath from last episode?
Well, I think you can already see from what I've written on the run sheet that I failed. I had Merchant's Cove. And listen, surely I can be given a little bit of leniency. I literally could not sit at all. I could not sit and even standing was an issue with my back. Yeah, did I mention I had a bad back?
You can. I think we've all mentioned we've had a bad back. You could have played it on the floor.
Oh, God. I actually have to unbox it. It's still in shrink, and I just couldn't do it.
Right.
No, anyway, I'm making excuses. But anyway, I was in so much pain, I couldn't do it, and I'm just going to leave it at that. And I am going to just keep it for my future oath.
Okay.
I think. So, yeah. Yeah, sorry, I'm a disappointment.
Well, a bit of a spoiler for listeners out there, but I think you and I are on next week's episode as well. So I'll be checking in on you. Yep.
Okay. Thanks for reminding me.
Adi, how did you go with your oath from last episode?
Well, mine is a long-standing one, to teach Dune to a group, and everyone's been so busy it's very hard to get hold of, and it is a bit of a sort of an event game, so it's very hard to get hold of the group. But hey, it's going to happen. I'm definitely going to do it. I've read through the rules. I have also watched a couple of playthroughs in various kind of situations, because there's many different videos of, there's a 9-minute learn Dune in 9 minutes, learn Dune in 18 minutes.
Can I just clarify which Dune is this as well that we're talking about?
Just pure Dune, like the original from the 70s. Yeah. Nice. I've played it a couple of times, but I feel like it almost needs like a DM. Like it needs someone to be the master of ceremonies and keep that game moving and keep going, because there's so much going on and there's so many things that happen between the rounds that it needs to have like a conductor that kind of orchestrates that game, or at least a couple of players that have played it a few times so that they can, get your way through it. But I will double down on this because it won't be getting done.
That's what we do around here. We don't fulfill our oath. We swear another oath.
Down. Yeah, that's right. I
Jesus Christ.
basically, I have been lucky enough that I will be going to Japan before PlayCon, and I like the little small box Japanese games, but I don't know a lot about them. And I know that, yourself, you love them. Lauren loves them. I know that Mitch loves a lot of their trick takers, and he's bought a bunch of those before in the past.
I only love the ones that Lauren's told me about. I don't know a lot about them otherwise.
Yeah, well, there you go.
She brought a bunch to your place earlier in the year, and I was just taking photos of all of them because I wanted all of them once she told me about it. But I didn't even know where to begin to start researching them.
That's the same as me. And I've looked at a couple that are so random and that I've never heard of, and I'm like, well, I'll give that a go. Why not? So I'm going to try my best while I'm in Japan to track down a couple of these games and kind of have a bit of a look at them and see what it's all about. Because it's not that I dislike them. It's just something that I've never really explored. So, but I have played plenty of them. I've enjoyed playing them. I've just never tried to do it myself. So yeah, I'll check them out. And I'm actually lucky enough that I backed the bugs of Backgardia or insects of Backgardia.
You're right. Bugs of Backyardia. Yeah.
And I will actually be picking up my copy from the designer in Tokyo.
How cool is that?
And then getting sent the expansion when the expansion goes to print, because I backed the base game as well. So that's pretty cool. And that'll be pretty fun. And maybe I actually offered and said, are there any games over here that you can't get that you'd like to try? And I'll bring one out. And he's like, I'll let you know. So that might be quite cool.
You take him a copy of Test Match and Squatter.
I hope it's not on Mars or something huge. Yeah. I hope it's something small and awesome, But yeah, that's kind of cool. So we'll see how we go with that.
That's unreal.
I'll update everyone when I get back.
Cool. Well, my oath, as I mentioned earlier in the show, was to play Creature Comforts. So it's a big tick for that. I had a second oath as well, which was to play Project Echo, which is a solo RPG journaling game. Now, full disclosure, I haven't finished playing it because it does actually take quite a while, but I have started it and I'm absolutely loving it at the moment. But I'm actually taking my time because it's a good reminder for me with these solo journaling games how much I like to just sit down and write. Like, I've always enjoyed writing, but I just feel like at this point in my life, I don't have enough time to actually sit still and write. So I've really sort of taken my time and embellishing a lot of this sort of stuff, because anytime you do a solo journaling RPG, there's no limit to how much you write. You can write as little or as much as you want. When I did 1,000-Year-Old Vampire earlier in the year, and I did that one, I played it twice. And the first time I played it, I just did some short little notes based on the prompts that I was given. And the second time I played it, I spent a bit more time and I created the character and I really got into it. And you get so much more out of it when you do that one. So with Project Echo, instead of writing it in a journal, you actually write it in a day planner. And it says you can get a monthly planner, a weekly planner, or a daily planner. And I just thought, what the hell? I'll get a daily planner. And you are part of this time police kind of outfit. And you're trying to track down this entity that is traveling through time and basically screwing up timelines and stuff. And again, it's kind of vague in the way that it presents itself, and the prompts are quite vague. So you get out of it whatever you put into it. And you start off with a coin, because there's certain things you have to flip a coin, heads or tails, and you do this or do that or go to this page. And then you start off with a watch. And the watch is essentially your D6, and you roll the dice, and you can choose what the value comes up. Say a 3 comes up, you can choose to go forward 3 days or 3 months, or you can go backwards 3 days and 3 months. And then on that page, there's a prompt for number 3. So you travel through time, and then you respond to the prompt. And then eventually there's other devices that you actually collect, and the devices are different ways. So I've actually now got a skimmer, which you roll 2 dice and you get a total value between 2 and 12. And that tells you how many pages you flick. And so if you're using a weekly planner, you might actually advance through time quite a lot. Or I'm just turning pages because I have a daily planner, and then you respond to the prompt. And then there's certain things that happen, and I'm really getting into it. And the way I've said it, I've set it in Melbourne, and so because you have to go and collect a package at the start of the game. You can choose wherever that package is, then you go through time. So I just said it was an alley off Burke Street, and so then I'm skipping through time, and there's different things. And there's one of my prompts was you get notified about something that has changed in the timeline. So I just said I saw a news article, and now Elon Musk is president of the United States, and someone's the entity is messing with the timeline. And it's just so much fun. I'm having an absolute blast just just being as creative as I can based on these prompts. And that's the biggest thing I get out of these solo journaling games.
When do you find the time, like, because you've got young children, when do you find the time to journal and sit down and write?
Yeah. After they go to bed. It's like get a coffee, I'll go to bed, journal might stay up and watch some trashy TV, and I'll get this journal out and I'll get my dice and roll it with my little dice tray. And I know there's other devices you get later on where you use a deck of cards or use a tarot deck. It's a really unique system where you discover these more time devices, and I think there's about 7 different time devices you discover. And so I haven't gone too far into it to even reveal what they are to ruin it for myself. But the book it's called Project Echo, ECCO. It's called a solo time travel game by Elliot Davis. And I was lucky enough to grab a copy of this from our friends at Games Paradise. Conan put it aside from me, which is who I actually bought the 1,000-Year-Old Vampire from at South by Southwest last year. And I hope they're going to be at South by Southwest this year so I can pick up a few more. So yeah, so I'll keep going with that one. And my new oath is going to play the next kids table board game in my collection, which is Maple Valley, which is it's different from what I understand to Creature Comforts, but still just as charming. At least I hope it is. It's more moving your creatures around now and getting benefits, and there's friends. It's all around earning friends and earning favors and things like that. Dana, you've played it, I take it?
I have, but don't just sometimes. And this is just my experience with it. The first play, you might think, there's something not quite right about it. Just give it a chance.
Sure,
and it does. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it because it's just they're such brilliant productions, these games. So, well, that rounds it out for the episode 295. Thank you very much to both of you for looking after me as my carers for tonight.
No worries, mate. Get your blanket on and get you to bed.
You're going to put a hot water bottle on my back and go and have a Bex and lie down. Thanks very much for your listening as well. And you can join us again next week, episode 296. In the meantime, play more games. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. And before we go, I need to give you the answer to our PlayCon practice trivia question, which was, what do the following artists have in common? Duran Duran, Madonna, Paul McCartney and Wings, and Garbage. And the answer is they all sang title songs for James Bond movies. Duran Duran with A View to Kill, Madonna, A Die Another Day, Paul McCartney and Wings, Live and Let Die, and Garbage, The World Is Not Enough. So hopefully some of you got that question right, and stay tuned for more trivia practice each week leading up to PlayCon.